Hey everybody, this is your Digital Super Saiyan 3 back here with another video, and now welcome to my review of the Wild Thornberries movie that came out in 2002. So yes, the same time that the Hey Arnold movie came around. Well, except it came out months after the Hey Arnold movie. The Hey Arnold movie came out came out during the summer, so the Wild Thornberries movie came out during the fall of 2002. I gotta say, looking back at this movie does hold up a lot better than the Hey Arnold film. So we begin the movie with a narration done by Eliza Thornberry, voiced by Lacey Calbert, who does the voice of Eliza. Like I said, she does the voice of Eliza, basically giving us a repeat of the show's intro. Well, technically a reenactment of the show's intro. She talked about how she got her powers from a shaman she freed from a warthog trap, since the shaman was transformed into a warthog. The shaman is named Shaman Miambo, and he gave Eliza the power to talk to animals. Oh, and Shaman Miambo in the movie is voiced by Kevin Michael Richardson. Yes, that Kevin Michael Richardson, the same guy who voices Trigon in Teen Titans, as well as the Joker in 2004's The Batman, and Gantu in Lilo and Stitch. Basically, he's done a lot of roles. And you got a lot of the other alumni from the Wild Thornberry show in this movie. You got Tom Kane as the role of Darwin the chimpanzee, who also voices Professor Utonium. You got Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Yes, that's right. Flea, the drummer of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, voices Donnie. You got playing the mom, Marianne. Her name's Jody Moran. I can't remember her name, but I know her first name is Jody, but I can't remember her last name. She does the voice of the mom. I got Desiree Harris or something like that plays the role of Debbie, the older sister. And then, of course, you got the legendary Tim Curry playing the role of the father, Nigel Thornberry. Oh, smashing, isn't it? So, on the savannah, Eliza sees Makeva, voiced by a mama cheetah, voiced by Alfred Woodyard, and she spots the mother, and then she decides to go play with the cheetah cubs. One of them is named Towley, voiced by Kimberly Brooks. Yeah, Kimberly Brooks is in a Nickelodeon movie. So, because Eliza went with the cubs past the acacia tree, they hear the sound of poachers approaching. And one of the poachers happens to grab Towley off the ground while flying on a helicopter. I loved how at the beginning of the movie, they keep the poachers in the shadows before the big reveal. Like, we don't see their faces yet, and they build up for a long time for the poachers to be revealed. And Eliza runs after the poacher who grabs Towley as she climbs after him as she's dangling from the rope ladder on the helicopter. And one of the poachers had a knife that had a hilt with a falcon on it. That was in the shape of a falcon. And he cuts the rope. But have no fear, Eliza manages to be caught safely before she can hit the ground. Of course, in order to keep their daughter safe, And after Debbie spills the beans about Eliza doing a lot of things with being near animals, Eliza is then sent to boarding school in London. But lucky for her, her pal Darwin stowed away in her suitcase. Even though they have a no pets policy in that boarding school. And yes, the reason why Eliza was sent to boarding school, another reason why, was because, of course, it was the idea of her grandmother, who was Nigel's mother, Grandmomsy. Eliza shows that she's kind of the misfit on the inside, but soon begins to make friends. Of course, her roommate doesn't exactly like her all that much. So, that night, Eliza begins having a dream about Tally and about having to go find him. Of course, she then sees Shaman Nyambo, who tells Eliza that Tally is alive and needs her to go save him. So, Eliza decides to ask her roommate for help. If you help me, you get your room back and you get your space back. So, the roommate reluctantly agrees. Oh, I forgot to mention before this, there was a scene with a massive food fight that happened. That Darwin caused a food fight to happen. So Eliza goes to the horses' stables, and the two sneak off and head towards the airport to fly back to Africa. Of course, closely on Eliza's tail was her grandfather and grandmother. And yes, Nigel's father, Nigel's dad, aka the Colonel, is also voiced by Tim Curry. Yes, that's right. He's not only voicing Nigel in this movie, but he's also voicing Nigel's father. So, while sneaking back to Africa, Eliza happens to see a rhino who's calling out for help, as he had been shot by poachers. Soon we see a man and a woman pull up in a van right next to Eliza and the rhino. And these two are voiced by Rupert Everett. The man is voiced by Rupert Everett. Yes, Prince Charming from the Shrek franchise. And the woman is voiced by Melissa Tomei, aka Aunt May from Spider-Man No Way Home, or the MCU Spider-Man films. Basically, she's MCU Aunt May. Yeah, Melissa Tomei is in this movie, and so is Rupert Everett. And they are named Sloane and Bree. They are Bree and Sloane Blackburn. And of course, the authorities arrive with help to help the rhino into a van. Eliza and the Blackbirds hit it off pretty well. Eliza thinks that the Blackbirds are just like her. But little does she know, she is wrong. She soon sees them again after coming across a gorilla who tells Eliza, Donnie, and Darwin that that poachers had put up an electric fence at the Tenbo Valley, where the elephants are gathering during the solar eclipse. While arriving at the Blackbirds' camp, Eliza, Darwin, and Donnie got to spend the night after learning about what had happened. Of course, after Of course, the following morning, Eliza sees that Donnie had went into the Blackburns' trailer, and Bree and Sloane were nowhere in sight. Until they happened to find out that the Blackburns were the poachers the whole time. And and of course, Sloane is like, "Where did you get that information?" And Eliza's like, "I'll never tell you." And then Debbie shows up, because of course she shows up. And I forgot to mention Debbie's subplot in the movie, that she made friends with this little villager boy. Yeah, that's right. Debbie actually made friends with this little villager boy. And of course, Sloane grabs Debbie by the neck and tries to drag it out of her. And then says, "Where did you get this information? Who told you these things?" And Eliza's like, "Wait, it's because I can talk to animals." And then, of course, because Eliza broke the rule, she loses her powers. And of course, she cannot talk to animals anymore because her powers have been gone. Of course, Eliza, Debbie, Donnie, and Darwin, along with Tally, escape from the poachers and soon head upriver towards the Tenbo Valley. Eliza's going, "What am I going to do if I can't use my powers?" And then Debbie gives Eliza a pep talk. And it's definitely the best character moment for Debbie in the entirety of the Wild Thornberries, because I gotta say, this was probably my favorite Debbie moment, was Debbie giving Eliza a pep talk. And says there and then right as Eliza goes off to rescue the elephants, she says, "There's always a chance to be ordinary." So, the elephants began heading towards an electric fence, and of course, there was dynamite that was planted to spook them. And you see, of course, not just Eliza and her group at the waterfall, but you also see Nigel's parents, Nigel and Marianne, all all doing what they can to stop the poachers. We see Nigel's father manages to disarm one of the sets of dynamite. But of course, the second set of dynamite went off, and the elephants began stampeding. Eliza climbs the top of one of the elephants to try to make sure that that the elephant doesn't hit the electric fence. So she throws her father's medal that her father gave her at the beginning of the movie at the electric fence, and the elephants stop. And of course, she manages to tame one of the elephants back. And we actually show Eliza that Eliza Thornberry is more than just her power to talk to animals. It shows that she's the ultimate animal activist, the one who's ultimately there to protect all animals. Of course, Sloane then scoops up Eliza from the top of the elephant. And Sloane says, "I hate that you're interfering with our plan." And then Eliza says, "What you're doing is awful!" And, of course, Sloane throws Eliza into the river. But not without Sloane and Bree getting their comeuppance when one of the elephants knocks their helicopter to the ground as they are surrounded. Eliza is then saved by Shaman Miambo, and Shaman Miambo says, "You showed that you cared much with your heart. If this is as much as what you can do without your power, then it's more than worth it for you to get them back." And because of that, Eliza is granted her powers back. Bree and Sloane are arrested by the authorities. And of course, the movie ends where Eliza and her family are not only reunited, but of course, Eliza reunites Tally with his mother and his siblings. And then, of course, we get a montage of the Thornberry family dancing with a bunch of baboons. And thus the movie ends. So, yeah, the Wild Thornberries movie. Final thoughts? I gotta say, many years later, I think it holds up pretty well as a film. I thought Bree and Sloane were really good villains. I mean, especially if you're bringing A-list talent like Rupert Everett and Melissa Tomei into the picture, it's fine for what it is. I mean, the fact that you have the usual cast of the Wild Thornberries there just adds more to tension to the thing. Since, of course, this was a movie made based off of the Wild Thornberries. Anyway, this has been your Digital Super Saiyan 3. And, well, we go wild next with Rugrats Go Wild, the movie. See ya!